So, Noah, turn over to you.
All right. Is this thing on here? I think so.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing this morning, I guess? Go clicker. So I grew up on a dairy farm, like you said, and we did grow a little bit of alfalfa, but it was before I was born. So growing up, I knew what alfalfa was. We just didn't deal with it, and my extent of the knowledge is that we had a field down the road that was a cornfield that we referred to as the old alfalfa field, and that's still in our books as how it's listed there. So anyway, just to follow up with a good presentation right there on some hay handling. We're going to be just talking about the stack wagon real quick. You'll hear me refer to it as the stack wagon, the Stackcruiser, the bell wagon, any of those things. We're all talking about the exact same machine. So one thing for new machines, we do not offer a pull type anymore. So this machine is only available as a self-propelled model. Mr. Clayton Gerald's back here in the back. I'm sure many of you know. He runs a few of them, and I was fortunate enough to be on his farm back in December. And as you also know, we don't sell very many new ones of these because of the high price tag in the southeast, and that's the area that I cover. So I told Clayton, I said, this is the first time I've ever actually seen one in person. So he also got some hay out and made sure that I could confidently say that I had ran the machine, and we picked a few bales up right there in his in the gravel in front of the hay barn. So anyway, let's see here. Here we go. So the new models that we have are the 102, 103, and 105. A simple way to look at it is the 102 is for 2-tie bales. A 103 is for 3-tie bales, and the 105 is going to be your large square machine. It's going to be come from the factory ready to be attached with a mill stack clamp. Mill stack is a brand that we contract through for basically a squeeze that grabs those 3x3s or 3x4 bales and stacks them onto the table. All options you could, if you were wanting to do the large squares, all of them can be converted to large square. Just the 105 is only going to be able to do that. And then one other quick note on the 103, if you are running a 16x18 bale that is over, I believe, 44 inches long, that's the machine you would need to pick up those 2 ties. So. Moving into bale capacity here, on the 2-tie bales, we're going to be able to pick up 161 bales in one load. That is with one tie run, I believe, and that tie run can be adjusted wherever you would like it within the stack, or add multiple tie runs to keep those bales held together a little bit. 107 is going to be, like I mentioned, the 16x18, a little bit longer bale. We're going to be able to stack 107 of those. 82 3-ties and 15 3x3s or 10 4x3s. So who in here runs a newer New Holland round baler? Any show of hands? Anybody? Anybody got a Bell Command 2 monitor? It's a quiet crowd. So just pointing out that our monitor right here that controls what we mentioned earlier, the electronics on the stack wagon is the exact same monitor, just with different buttons and functions as to our Bell Command 2 monitor. It's basically the same thing, just mounted there. And then the picture over here to the side is of a tie run that was the last one posted up there. The tie run, like I mentioned, you can add multiple of those throughout the stack to help hold it together. Clayton, where do you put your tie runs at? 4 and 6. And how many high is it again? I can't even remember. 9? Yep, 9 high. So at 4 and 6, he runs a tie run. And so he's not going to be stacking 161. How many are you stacking with that? 160. That's what I was thinking. You lose one with a tie run. Yep. So that way you can adjust it to fit your operation. Clayton runs a taller barn That's a requirement for these machines. Something high enough to dump into. But the name of the game with picking up hay is getting it out of the field and under the shelter as quickly as possible. We mentioned a 5 mile an hour range earlier, or a 5 mile range earlier to make these machines optimal, and that is fairly true. They will run 50 mile an hour down the road. I don't know if you want to run that fast down the road loaded, but you can. So, you know, for a little bit longer transport, you could get there fairly quickly, but being able to have a hay barn at the edge of the field or just a couple miles away really makes these machines very useful in those applications. So, and then the taller hay barn is obviously the requirement there. Clayton puts down plastic and then scatters out straw on top of it. So that is his base for dumping. And I didn't realize how big of a deal it was for these square bales to really breathe until all of the talk and discussions before, but that's what Clayton had told me, that he, you know, part of the reason he likes this is because he can put it in the shed, get it out of the weather as quickly as possible, and it opens up and lets it breathe. So that is the gist of what I have on the stack wagon or the Stackcruiser. So kind of the rest of what we're going to talk about is some new product updates for 2023 from New Holland. We're going to try and, you know, adapt it to, you know, if you are all looking for new equipment, you know, some things to look at across the industry to ultimately have more reliable equipment for your operation. So first off, the Discbine Plus series. We have a gentleman here with us, Matt Adams, that actually got to demo one of these here in Kentucky this past fall. I think we had some good feedback from that. And then the Roll Belt Utility Plus. So previously we've had a utility baler. The Utility Plus is a totally new redesigned baler for 2023. It's not just a few updates that we've done. And then the Pro Belt baler. So did anybody go to the farm show this past weekend or week? Clayton was down there, a couple of you. So we had our Pro Belt down there. Unfortunately, we did not have a Utility Plus. It got damaged during transport by a truck driver, and we had to ship it back to New Holland instead of bringing it there. So anyway, the Discbine Plus. So the big thing about this is that's new for this year is the 10-foot and the 12-foot models. Previously, those two sizes were made by an outsourced by us manufacturer, and the big thing is that now that is in-house. So it's got a Momax cutter bar on it. It's all built in New Holland by New Holland. So really good reliability, really good cutter bar that we adapted from our speed rowers. So anybody that's ever seen or run over any of our new speed rowers, it's basically the exact same cutter bar underneath it. Just some minor changes to make it fit. On the 310, we are not going to be able to offer steel rolls on that, but rubber rolls or flails are an option. And then going up to the 316, we're not going to be able to offer flails on that. It's only going to be rubber roll or steel roll. And forgive me, I can't remember her name. Was it Jennifer maybe? Earlier was talking about alfalfa and how, you know, rubber rolls is going to be ideal for alfalfa. I definitely agree with that. That's what we tell everybody. Anything that is a leafier crop that you're trying to keep that leaf retention, you're going to want those rubber rolls especially. Some folks for a little bit stemmier crop like some steel rolls. They are definitely not very high on the production list. Steel rolls are the least of the three options for take rate. And then the flail machine. So if you're doing you know, just grasses that have long, you know, waxy stems, that flail machine's where it's going to really shine. It's going to be able to knock that waxy surface off and dry down a little bit better on those crops. So some of the updates to the cutter bar, we put a longer turtle shell on there when increased the knife length just a little bit, so we're getting a little more knife overlap. We also, if you've seen any of our side pull machines, like the 210 or 209, those cutter bars are a little more jagged below the turtle shells there, and so it's not as clean. On the center pulls now, we made that cut out a little bit cleaner, a little bit smoother, creates a little less streaking. It still does not cut quite as good as a sickle machine. I know a few of you probably still run some of those, and the cut quality on a sickle is just, you know, top notch. But it creates a little less streaking and gets a little better flow of material now with the turtle shells being a little shorter as well. So knife overlap, or the cutting overlap there, you can see it on the screen. Also, whenever we lengthened everything, we reduced the number of pods essentially across there. So like if there was 7, now there's only 6 for a center, or for a 10 foot. So one, it reduces the number of things that are moving there, but it also, whenever we made everything a little longer, it's reducing the speed. So we're keeping, you know, high speed out here, but we're reducing the speed underneath in the cutter bar, so essentially making it last a little bit longer. Quick change knives are something that, you know, another thing in the business is trying to get in and out of your field as quickly as possible. And whenever you have a knife that is damaged, being able to go out there and pop it down and change it super quick is very efficient. I grew up with just a little disc mower that you pull behind, you know, 3-point. And we kept a block of wood and a pull handle in the seat of the or underneath the seat of the tractor, because my dad was too stubborn to go buy a good impact to keep with you. So anytime we broke a blade, it was a good 15 minutes to change one blade. This, you can go out there and change every blade on the machine, and any machine that's going to have quick change blades, you're going to be able to change every one of them once you're efficient with it in probably 5 minutes. So something you want to look for if you're, you know, trying to save time in your operation, looking for new products. So our cutter bar, back to it real quick. Every single one of our modules is going to be a individual oil-filled module. So there is no common sump on ours. There are a couple other folks in the industry that have something similar. They'll call them segmented or you know, removable sections. It's not just one solid bar, but theirs is still a lot of a common oil bath. So we like this design because if anything breaks underneath, it's contained right there. So there's no little parts that are going floating throughout the oil bath. I think I lost it there. I don't know. Can you still hear me? Okay, which one? Both of them? If I can get it out. Nope. Okay. Let me just take, oh, there you go. All right, can we got me now? Okay. All right, so the segmented or modular cutter bar is going to be a major form of protection for cutter bar protection that we offer. And then you'll see the Shock Pro hub. That's something else that is somewhat of an industry standard nowadays. Essentially, that Shock Pro hub, like other brands, is a weakened point on the machine. so that if a rock or stick or T-post or something like that goes through there, it's going to shear that hub before it shears any of the gears down below. So there's roughly a 21 spline shaft that comes out of there, and then the shear hub is only going to have about 5 interlocking mechanisms onto it instead of the 21 like it would be if you were trying to make it a solid connection. So we weakened that point on purpose. Like I said, that's kind of an industry standard now. That's something that when you're out there looking for new equipment, you're looking for something that, maybe you've had a cutter bar blow up on you before, something that you're going to look for to prevent that from happening, to make your machine something that is an easy fix, and it doesn't just destroy the cutter bar and throw it in the junk pile whenever one thing breaks. So the Utility Plus round baler, this is definitely going to be for a smaller operator. We kind of classify them in annual use. How many bales that you do is kind of where we're going to decide if you should go up to a larger machine or not. And this machine has actually been updated so much that we're up to about 1,000 bales a year. So if you're doing under 1,000 bales a year, this would be a machine that we would probably recommend for you. We have a lot of updates to it. Has anybody ever ran a 648 New Holland round baler, an older one? I got one back there. Or what about any of the BR series round balers? A couple of folks, okay. So the fun fact about this one is that there is a stuffer system behind the pickup on these that is identical to the BRs and the 648 round baler. They literally, up there in the factory, pulled out the old tooling, knocked the dust off of it, and started making it again and putting it in this machine. So it is identical stuffer. We added that. On the previous utility, it only had 5 belts. Now we have 6, so we're getting a little less crop loss between the belts as we're making a bale, and a little more belt-to-belt contact to keep that bale rolling in there. This machine is going to be limited to only dry hay, as it does not have any chopping rolls or scrapers to keep the machine clean in any of the abrasive silage applications. And also something that we do at New Holland for any of our silage capable balers is add endless belts to them. So this one's not going to have endless belts either. A couple points here. I don't even know if it's actually on that slide there. I stole these slides from something else. But our main drive protection on this is going to be a shear pin. It's cheap, it's simple, and it's reliable. The only downside to it is you have to get out and actually put a shear pin in there. So we also, with the stuffer system, added a wider pickup, so now we don't offer any gathering wheels for it. We just simply put more teeth on there and a wider pickup. It is roughly 5 feet tine to tine, I believe, going into a 4-foot wide chamber. And I believe it is 69 inches flare to flare. So essentially what all could be picked up there is almost 70 inches of hay. This is only going to come with manual density, so there's just a little valve back there to adjust the pressure that you put on the belts. It's a very easy, simple design. So right here, just a little bit more about the pickup. I basically already talked about all this, but the stuffer and how wide it is the big thing for this pickup added on to the 2023 models. Right here is the auto command or auto wrap 2. This is going to be what the monitor you would receive if you bought the twine only option. This is the cheapest option for getting into a New Holland round baler, is getting the Utility Plus in twine only. Some of you folks out there have customers that don't want to deal with the net wrap, and they specifically request twine. My family is like that. I haven't figured them out yet, but it's okay. Everybody's got their preferences. Anyway, then the net wrap system here. This is actually the exact same net wrap system that we use in all of our other round balers. So it's something we've had for a while. It's proven, it's reliable, it works well. We've simply built this machine so that this system can bolt right in. You get the Bell Command 2 monitor there, which if anybody notices looks very, very similar to the one that was in the Stackcruisers. So just some different buttons on there and whatnot. And then the option for net and twine. So if you want to have the option to wrap some for yourself that is net wrap, and then your customer only wants twine, you can run it both ways. And on the net wrap versions, because they're going to come with the Bale Command 2 monitor, we do offer factory moisture sensors in there. So for anybody who, this machine we're only going to be doing dry hay, but that way you do know what your moisture is, and if you get too close to the edge of a field or something and it starts reading too high, you know to get out of it and maybe come back later. So it lets you know, it measures any moisture from 7% up to 60%. So in silage applications where you're 50 plus whenever you're trying to make silage on our round balers that are silage capable, you'll be able to measure that accurately and know what's going into each bale. The Pro Belt balers, balers built for business. These are monster machines. They are extremely heavy built. If you were at Kentucky or at the Louisville show, we had not that one because that one's been used, but one exactly like it, same setup, sitting up there. Like we said before, kind of the annual use that we're looking for. On the other one, it was up to 1,000 bales. Our regular roll belts are going to be anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 bales a year that we're going to put you in something like that. And then north of producing 5,000 bales a year is where we're going to recommend going up to the Pro Belt. There we go. So a couple of things, if you all are looking to upgrade into a premium series baler, maybe you just want less breakdowns or want to buy something that's going to last a whole lot longer. We're just going to talk about a few things here that make this baler and other balers across the industry capable of doing that. A lot of things I'm going to point out are things that are standard across the industry. So for starters, the actual chamber size. So on our 450 Pro Belt, it's going to be a 6.5 foot or 5.5 foot chamber instead of a standard 5 foot. So, and then on the 460, it's going to be a 6.25 chamber instead of just a 6 foot chamber. This is kind of the starting point of making sure that things last longer than expected. You're never taking, if you're making a 4x5 bale or a 4x6 bale, you're never maxing out the capacity of the machine. You're never putting all that stress and pulling those belts as far as they'll go, or pulling the bearings and the rollers as far as they'll go. So you're never putting all of that pressure there. And then there are times whenever you're baling for yourself and you just want to make a bigger bale, you can still do that. If you consistently do that, the life expectancy is going to go down just slightly because you are maxing the chambers out there. But this machine does have a lot of very heavy components to take care of that, such as the twin drive gear system or gearbox. So what that means is that the gearbox on the front of it is a 200 horsepower gearbox. It drives off of each side of the machine. So on the regular roll belts, we're going to be driving off of one side of the machine. It's going to power all these chains here that you see closest to us, and then we're going to send power through the machine, through a roll, to power the chains and features on the other side of the machine. This one, we're coming directly off of the gearbox, powering each side of the machine. There's no power transfer through a roll on this one. Every one of these is going to be premium Diamond brand chains. That's somewhat of an industry standard as well now too. Everybody likes that brand. They're really good, really reliable chains. So the other big thing that we do, and not even just on the Pro Belt, but on all of our roll belt balers, is a premium cutout clutch. So none of our machines we offer a slip clutch for any of our round balers anymore. We're only going to offer on the utility the shear pin protection, and then up from that, every single one of them is going to get a premium cutout clutch. Even our Hay Special roll belts, simple machine, it's even going to have one. So the way that it works and why we went away from a slip clutch Who here has slip clutches on anything on their farm? You've got slip clutches. Everybody's got a slip clutch somewhere. So with slip clutches, there's a lot of maintenance required for it. So each year, whenever you bring that baler out to start running it, you have to brandish the clutches, make sure they're not stuck. You may have to adjust them to achieve that same amount of torque, because every single time that a slip clutch slips, you're losing some of that torque that's going from the tractor to the baler. So essentially, if you continue to let it slip and you don't make any adjustments, it's going to slip when it shouldn't. And you're going to be out there fighting mad because you're not able to bale because you're just sitting here slipping a clutch. So the other thing with slip clutches that we do not like in a hayfield, whenever they slip, what happens to them? Anybody? Create heat. Yep, sure enough. So they get really hot. So we got heat. Hay counts as fuel, and you're out in the open air, and we got some oxygen, and that's not that's three things we don't like to put together. So the cutout clutch is going to completely disengage. It's kind of got like 4 cogs on it that jump apart whenever a certain torque is hit. Whenever the baler tries to stop and the tractor doesn't, it's gonna throw those out. And centrifugal motion in the PTO is going to keep those held apart. So it's not going to try and re-engage until the operator does something. So it's going to completely disengage, create 0 heat, and then to re-engage them, you can either cut the PTO off and turn it back on, or sometimes you can simply lower the RPM. That centrifugal force slows down, and it'll try and re-engage then. So until the operator does something, it's not going to try and re-engage. Again, 0 heat. And each time that it cuts out and re-engages, you're getting the exact same amount of torque from the tractor to the baler. There's no adjustments or anything to be made there. So it's something that you definitely wouldn't want on a square baler, because if a square baler had a cutout clutch on it every single time that plunger hit, you'd be having a cutout and it'd be completely disengaging. So there are still places in a hayfield for a cutout or for a slip clutch, but a round baler probably isn't one of them. So again, something that's fairly industry standard across the board. Most all brands, especially on their premium models, are going to offer a cutout clutch. Then we have just a breakdown of some of the heaviness of the chains. This kind of proves to you how just heavy it is, and how heavy any of the premium balers on the market are going to be. So 3 of our chains are all 100 heavy, and the smallest chain on it is an 80. And then that chain is also, it's not listed there, but the ones that power the pickup are also 80s as well. So very heavy built machine. We have 3 different ways of ordering it, just as a rotor feed, so that is no cutting knives, a 13 knife option, and then a 25 knife option. So the 25 is going to come with 2 banks of knives. You can run either 13 knives or 12 knives, or all 25 if you want to. So I kind of like the 25 just because you would probably never want to cut the material that small. I mean, we're talking probably 1.5 inch to 2 inch widths. And but what I like about it is you could run 13, and then as those knives get dull, you can drop them out and put your 12 in just by pressing some buttons in the cab, and you're back to baling. So there's nothing, you don't have to go out and change knives or anything. So then you also see listed down here below is our active drop floor. I think it's actually on the next page. Yep. So we actually just won an award for this, the AE50 American Society of Agricultural and Biological Engineers Award. That was a mouthful to get out. I'm surprised I got it right. So any machine that is going to be a undershot rotor, meaning that once the hay comes up off of the pickup right here, it's going to go underneath the feed roller. Some other machines, some of our roll belts, our silage special, hay special, things like that, are going to have a rotor that turns the opposite direction and takes the hay over the top of it. It's a little simpler design. It doesn't take quite as much horsepower. But these machines that are undershot rotors, you're going to find that they all have some type of drop floor. You'll hear that term a lot in the industry. Everybody who has any type of undershot rotor machine is going to have a drop floor. So the reason for that is that if you get a plug, a big wad of hay comes in there, something like that, you can hit the remote on the tractor and drop that floor away, let the plug go through, and then return that floor back up to keep you going. So not going to say that you don't have a plug that you got to go fish out, but it's supposed to reduce them. So the difference here, this is new and special just to New Holland here, but we have an active drop floor. So whenever you're baling and it senses that there is a potential plug, meaning that there's a certain amount of pressure being applied to that drop floor, it automatically drops away while you're baling and then returns back. The only reason that you would even know that you were about to have a plug is there'll be a thing on the monitor that pops up and tells you to slow down. So it's a really good design, keeps you in the field moving a little bit longer. Right here is going to be a picture, a cutaway of the 25 knife option. And so whenever that drop floor drops away, all 25 of those knives are inserted and they also drop away. So it clears the entire pathway. So we make sure we get that plug through there quickly and efficiently. So next we've got IntelliBale. So this is a feature that we have offered for a while, and a few other manufacturers offer something as well. As far as I know, everybody that offers this is kind of under the same constraint that we are, and that is that to have IntelliBale work, it has to run with a very specific tractor, which in our case would have to be a C&H tractor, so either a Case or a New Holland, with certain criteria. So essentially, the computer on the tractor has to be able to stop the tractor for this to work. So what IntelliBale is once the machine knows that it has a full bale, when the alarm goes off, you would normally press on the clutch and brake and stop as quickly as possible. This machine right here, if it's got this, is going to stop the machine itself, so you don't have to do anything. It's going to initiate the net wrap cycle and then dump the bale out and close the hatch all on its own, with nothing for the operator to do right there. Then simply to continue baling, toggle forward, and you're back to baling. So it does not steer on the windrow. That is not something we have out quite yet. You probably won't ever see that for a round baler, but I won't say some other things you might see something like that sometime. So next we've got just a little quick video on it. I'll talk just a brief bit more afterwards and we'll take some questions.
New Holland's IntelliBale is the ultimate solution to deliver more bales on the ground faster and easier. Uniform speeds deliver consistent bale size and density. Efficient baling with more consistent cycle times. More hours baling with less operator fatigue. Simply put, IntelliBale automates the baling process. The baler and the tractor communicate through the isobus connection. As the target bale size is reached, the baler signals the tractor to a stop, then automatically wraps, ejects the bale, and closes the tailgate, all without any input from the operator. Once the tailgate has closed, the operator can initiate forward motion and resume baling normally. Forward motion can be resumed any one of three ways. 1. By shuttling the forward neutral reverse lever. Or 2. By pressing the forward power reverse button, the tractor will resume its last speed setting. The third method of pressing forward on the command grip allows the operator to control ground speed when starting a new bale. Using IntelliBale, the tractor operator can focus their attention to following the row ahead, confidently knowing the tractor will automatically stop when the next full bale is achieved. The IntelliBale is available for any isobus Class 3 equipped roll belt or pro belt baler, with a bale presence switch, which is sometimes called a bale ramp switch, installed, and the IntelliBale system unlocked via the EST tool. IntelliBale automation is only available for New Holland or similar CNHI brand tractors, meeting the following criteria: model year 2016 or newer T5, T6, or T7, with isobus Class 3, with base and speed control unlocked. Auto command or dynamic command transmissions are preferred for smooth operation. However, the power command transmission when equipped with an electronic parking brake is also compatible. Automating your baling operations with New Holland's IntelliBale feature will help during the long heydays of summer and give you the bale consistency New Holland balers are known for. Haymaking often means fighting the weather, field conditions, and a clock. IntelliBale can deliver greater productivity with less effort and greater consistency, putting more bales on the ground every day.
So a couple other things about IntelliBale. If you paid attention to the operator out there, his fatigue at the end of the day is going to be nearly non-existent because he doesn't have that minor heart attack every time that bell alarm goes off and he's got to think about stopping the tractor. So honestly, that's a big advantage to it. The other big advantage is that if you have consistent windrows and you're stopping the exact same distance every single time, going the exact same speed, you're also going to create the exact same size round bale. So who's ever, I'm sure all of you actually have, stacked round bales too high leaving a field on a trailer or something, or hauling them somewhere, if they're the exact same height, that makes that second row a whole lot easier to stack. I don't let my dad stack hay anymore because he doesn't have quite the art to it, and we've picked up more than we stack, I feel like, but that would be reduced if we were making sure we were making the same size bales. So that's a good thing too about it. And then also if you're selling any of that hay, you're guaranteeing your customer that you've got a 60-inch bale or a 58 or whatever you're trying to produce there. So any other questions? Yes, sir. So you can still get side pull, but you can get center pivot, and we have had a 10-foot center pivot for a while. It just previously hasn't been made by us. Now, 2023 models are going to be made by us in New Holland. Yep. Yep. Oh, sorry. That is a good question. I do not know. So what Clayton asked was if the 102 attached with a mill stack attachment that is designed to pick up our 3x3 or 3x4 bales, would it pick up a bale bundle? What size are bale bundles? I mean, roughly. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say yes. Take that with caution. But yeah, I mean that little of a difference whenever you're talking about something that big, the mill stack attachment would probably pick it up. Would it fit once it tries to dump? I don't know, because then you're talking a foot wide probably, or more, depending on how it goes on. So potentially. Any other? Yep. Mm-hmm. So crop lifters, I know a lot of people that run them, and I know a lot of people that rip them off right after they run them. I think it really depends on the crop. Some folks even run crop lifters just on the outsides because they feel like it creates a little more updraft there. So what he was asking was kind of basically how crop lifters work, or what my opinion is on them. And we've had some machines that were streaking a little worse than others. We put crop lifters on them, and it helps out. They go to a different field, a different crop at a different time of the year, and it's streaking again. And then they go rip those crop lifters off, and this problem is solved. So I think it is really dependent on your crop and your conditions. I think it's a great thing that if I was ordering one, I would order it with them because it's a little cheaper there rather than buying them later. And then you can just take them on and off as needed throughout the year. Any other questions? Chris?
So, you have the net wrap options and the fine options. Is there an option for plastic wrap on your balers?
Yes and no. We did make something called a combi baler, and I believe we are still making it, but it is only sold in Europe. So what Chris asked was if there was a plastic wrap option, so if you're doing baleage, that it wraps the bale as soon as it comes out of the baler, with the baler. Like the baler wraps it in net wrap, it ejects, and then wraps in plastic and dumps in the field. So we have had something like that. I just don't know what the status is because we don't sell them in North America. There are a couple. I did see one in New Holland, PA. So there are a few over here, but the knowledge on that is limited. So, yep. Say that again. They should not be. So I believe the difference there is the length of the turtle shell is changed, and then the knives are actually a little bit longer on any of the Plus series. Yep. Anything like what? I'm not familiar with that. Where have you seen B-Wrap before? Hmm. So I'm not familiar with that, but as long as it's being produced on a machine that is a twine machine, or sorry, a net machine, I'm sure we could put that in one of ours and wrap it in that as well. That being said, you brought up a good point. My family, we store all of our hay outside. We have a baler that does not make a very tight bale. It is not a New Holland. It's a very old machine, and we do twine on it, and we have lots of crop loss. So one thing that I want to change on our place is to add net wrap to that. That way, the net wrap just itself, even if it's not the B wrap that you're talking about, just having net wrap around the bale really helps shed the water, and then making a nice, tight, dense bale is going to help as well. So. Any other questions? Thank you.